All right, welcome back, everybody, and super excited to have this gentleman back on the show. He was on last season, and we had a great time. We're going to have a great time tonight. Of course, I'm talking about Clay Simpson from SkyGolf, SkyCaddie. He's an executive at SkyGolf and has been held critical roles, including manager of logistics and quality control, ensuring rigorous product standards for the company's industry-leading hardware and software. So, Clay, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ted.
I appreciate it. So I wanted to ask you something. You know, I didn't make it down to the PGA show this year. I know you were down there, as you said, sort of walking the beat, as it were, and you got to see a lot of different things in that. And one of the things that really amazed me when you were on the show and you talked about this, and this is the first question out of the gate I've got for you, is they're known for ground verified mapping, which basically means you're walking the course and you're mapping out the course. How many courses have you walked?
I personally haven't walked any.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the company has walked over 36,000 courses worldwide. And that's in the whole 25 years of existence that we've been around. So give you a little background. What does that do for you as the golfer? Is it actually, when we're walking the golf course, you're getting it from the golfer's perspective, right?
Mhm.
Because from a satellite view, you cannot see those undulations in the fairways, or how a fairway tilts left to right, or whatever on those lines, right? So walking the golf course allows you to see it from a golfer's point of view and see what the golfer's seeing, to give him yardages to things that you know he's going to need, either coming off the tee box or coming from the fairway into the green. So that's one of the biggest reasons that we do it that way.
Well, that's a huge advantage because again, I've familiar with some of the satellite imagery that you're talking about, and it does. I mean, you don't really get to see the terrain the same way, and as a golfer, you want to know where the undulations are and that on the golf course, especially if it's a new course that you've never been to before. You want to get a sense of what the fairway is like. You know, is it sloping a little more than what it looks like? Because sometimes our eyes play tricks on us, right? So I mean, it's good to have that information at hand. And
Absolutely.
I knew you didn't walk the course. I just was kidding. I knew that you personally didn't walk the golf course yourself, but I was just curious. I wanted you to basically do what you just did, and that was to sort of distinguish between the two, satellite and walking the course. But yeah, it's a lot of 36,000 is a lot of golf course to walk.
Yeah, it's a lot of golf courses. I don't think you could play all of them in a lifetime if you played golf every day. So.
Oh yeah. So talk about some of the standout features of particularly some of the newer SkyCaddie models that have specifically helped golfers from everything from club selection and even course management, because it's not just about giving them yardage, it's actually giving them a lot of information. Tell us on the back end, some of the features that they're going to get if they're using some of the products.
Right. And the biggest things are, we have the IntelliGreen, of course, which is, we own the patent on that. We're the only ones that can do that. Is that green will move and rotate based on your angle of approach coming into the green. IntelliPath is a new thing that we came out with a couple of years ago. Is when you're using on the whole interactive whole view, and you move your cursor out. If you go to a certain spot, it'll give you a little dotted line and tell you, if your ball continues on this line, this is how far you have until you run into a fairway, or run into, a trap, or a water hazard, or out of bounds, or something like that. Interactive whole view really makes the device look like a electronic yardage book, because you can zoom into that and move the cursor around and get yardages to all different types of targets that are out there in front of you, to help you plan what you want to do coming off the tee box. Very easy, very quickly, and it makes you be a better golfer. It's always the indent and not the arrow. That still comes into effect. But if you feel comfortable hitting a golf ball to a certain distance and to a certain place, you're more than likely going to project a better shot going into that distance and place.
Wow. And the other thing too is, what's really interesting is there's what we refer to as handhelds, which is something very similar to your cell phone. And then you got Wearable, which is the watches and that. And we're seeing a lot of integration now between that. So there's more integration between the handhelds and the wearable tech. Where is SkyGolf heading next to sort of help the average golfer play faster and smarter by utilizing some of this technology?
Well, some of the technology is now is we have the newest and greatest GPS antennas and GPS engines in our devices now, which, as we all know, that from GPS antennas you do get some bad data in every once in a while, just based on how old is that satellite versus the newer satellite. So there may be some bad data coming in, and these new GPS antennas and engines will actually flush that bad data out, which actually makes our devices more accurate than they have before.
Mhm.
95% of the time, you're within 1 to 3 yards of where you're standing to a point that you're looking at. So if I could hit a golf ball to within 1 to 3 yards of where I was aiming every time, I probably wouldn't be sitting here on this podcast with you. So I'd be at TPC Sawgrass this weekend, right?
Right,
Um,
right,
so so, but anyway, yeah. So better accuracy is some of the newer technology that we've got coming out in our watch. Our watch works exactly like our handheld, just in a much smaller version, right? For those people who want to wear a watch, um, so you can use those as well. Now the two don't work together, coincident or coincide with each other. Pardon my language there for a
right.
second. They don't coincide with each other, so I can't have a device. I can have a device on the cart and my watch, but they'll work independently of each other.
Right.
And then we do have the club tags that we talked about last year, the super tags. Not only will they track your round and tell you what club you hit and the distances you hit it, plus different measurables in there, it gives you a 3D replication of your swing and measures like 7 different points of your swing as you go through it, even in your putting. So it also will track your round also and tell you, okay, you're hitting fairways, 65% of the time you're hitting fairways, and 70% of the time when you're in the fairway, you're hitting the green, right? And then you're two putting for there to make par better. And it'll give you those stats as it goes through in on the backside in your SkyGolf 360 account.
So for those that are not familiar with the tags that you're talking about, those are tags that screw into the butt end of the golf club, correct?
Correct. They screw into the butt end of your club, and they do not change the swing weight of your club whatsoever. And there's all kinds of nice little cool electronics in there. You don't have to tap them on anything or select anything on on your handheld that you're using, the Pro 4X or Pro 5X. You don't have to. It knows when you pick it up that, oh, okay, this is my 3 wood, and
Right.
in the fairway, oh, this is my 7 iron that I just swung. So it knows that. So it knows what to stamp it with, so to speak, of what club that you hit.
And how accurate is the information that these tags are putting out? So if let's say I have my 7 iron, and we'll just say for argument's sake, I'm hitting it 155 yards on average.
Mhm.
Is the information that it's reporting to either my 4X or my 5X, is it pretty accurate? And if so, within what's the margin?
Absolutely, it's accurate. The margin is going to be the same within 1 to 3 yards of the GPS engine. So because it's using the GPS in the device to mark
Right.
point A where you hit it to point B where you got to where your ball is. So the accuracy is still within 1 to 3 yards.
So if I've got my 5X, let's say, in the golf cart, and
Hmm.
I'm 3 yards away hitting the golf ball, that's going to be the distance basically of accuracy, the discrepancy, if you will, correct?
Correct.
Because
Yes, absolutely
it's
correct.
bouncing the signal from my club to the actual yardage that it's hitting, and then back
Right.
to.
Right.
Okay. I just want the reason why I say that is I want people to understand it's not that the accuracy of the device is not sound. It's just because it's in proximity. Now it would be less if I had it in my back pocket. Let's say, obviously, it'd be a little bit closer. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It would be if you had it in your back
I'm not
pocket, if
talking
you
about
had
the
it
tag. I'm talking about the
clipped to
5X.
you.
Yeah,
Right. If you have a clip to your belt, let's
or
say,
belt.
it's going to be much more accurate than if you leave it in the golf cart and you're, a couple yards away from the golf cart. So
Okay.
absolutely, because it's
So
going to mark the exact spot where your club hit the golf ball. So
right. Okay. I just want people to have an understanding, and I wanted people to understand that have never seen or used the tags, that this is an incredible piece of technology. And what's really nice is the fact, as you said, with the 360 account, it stores that information in that account so that they can then go back and look at those rounds, and they can get an idea, and actually a very accurate idea of how well they're hitting the ball, which each of the clubs that they use that particular day. So it gives them a lot of data points that they can then use, and that's something that they can share, either directly or indirectly, with their swing coach. So they can say, okay, here's the data points that that were recorded from my Sunday round last week, and then that gives him or her an idea of some of the things that maybe need to be worked on. Correct?
Absolutely. You can take those, and you can do some self look at it yourself and say, okay, on this hole, maybe I hit driver and I was a little off to the left with my driver. So then I had to punch out from there and then had to go into the green for there. Okay, so I'm gonna make a note somewhere along the way and say, okay, driver's left on hole one. I can make my own notes, and that way when I go back, I can look at these different shots and say, okay, this is where I'm losing strokes in my golf game, right? So maybe this is some of the swings that we need to look at and look at the data and see where I went wrong in a swing, right? And with the help of my coach, I can get that swing back on track.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, nowadays, a lot of golfers are looking at how, I mean, especially the younger generation coming up are very tech savvy, much more than certainly than I am. And they're wanting that information instantaneously. They want to have access to that information. They like the numbers, they're looking at the numbers, and they want to be able to, whether they're working with a coach or not, they want to have access to that information to see how well. And it gives them, now, is there a certain number of rounds that can be stored into that account, or is it unlimited depending on a plan or something?
Unlimited.
Okay.
Unlimited.
So, and seeing that, and the reason I asked you that is I knew the answer, but I just wanted to get you to say it here, because I wanted the listeners to really understand that the big advantage is you can now mark this information early in the season. So tomorrow's the first day of spring. A lot of folks are going to be out playing golf here real soon that haven't been able to get out yet. They don't have the advantage of being where I am in the Southeast, and they're going to get out there. So right from the early onset, they're going to be able to, if they've purchased these tags, they're going to be able to store those data points in a 360 account. Then as they progress throughout the season, they're going to keep doing that as they go along. Now they can get a gauge from when they first started, say the end of March, when they started playing this year. Now they're in the month of June and they've maybe played 10 rounds. They're going to be able to now take those data points from each of those 10 rounds, and they're going to be able to compare them to one another and say, where the improvement was, where, there's still some issues. It's not only good for them, but again, it goes to the coach's perspective. He's now got a gauge that he or she can use that then helps him or her focus on what they need to work on.
Correct. And even for those who aren't as lucky as you are and live in the Southeast, right?
Yeah.
You can use them indoors, right? And use
Right.
them and get the data from a swing indoors, hitting, maybe off a launch monitor or just hitting balls
Simulator.
into a net, right? You can get
Yeah.
the same data of what did that swing look like, right? So if you're getting into that late winter, early spring, okay, I want to get kind of warmed up for my golf game because the season is going to be here before I know it, and you're taking those indoor swings, you can use the tags there as well, and it'll give you the same data as it would if you were tracking your game, so to speak, on a golf course. You can get the same data in a practice session indoors.
Yeah, and again, that's huge for a lot of our golfers out there, because again, everybody's wanting to find that competitive edge. How can I improve? How can I, and for most golfers out there, I can tell you this from being a teaching pro for years, and we've, early in the show, I have some of my fellow professionals. We have a segment called Coach's Corner, and we've had this very discussion where a lot of players don't know their numbers. And what I mean by that is they don't know how far they hit on average their 7-iron or their 5-iron or their, whatever club in the bag. And this gives them those data points. So now they can say, okay, I've played a certain number of rounds, or I've played indoors on a simulator, or I've hit into a net, as you said, or in a dome, or whatever the case may be. Now I've got certain key data points that now I can look at and say, okay, here's an average 7-iron distance that I'm hitting. Here's an average 5-iron distance I'm hitting. So now they know within reason how far they're hitting each of their clubs. And that's huge because, and they're getting really the carry distance, not the distance plus roll, which is important because you want to know how far you're carrying your clubs. Because if you're hitting over to a green that's over water or over a bunker, you need to know how far I can hit that club. Is it going to carry that green, that sand trap, or that water hazard, or whatever the case is? So those data points become very vital for the average player, correct?
Absolutely. Every player needs to know the how far question. That's how
Yep.
SkyCaddie got started 25 years ago, actually.
Right.
But you know, if I'm in a fairway and I know, like you said, I'm hitting maybe over a pond or something going into the green, and I look at my SkyCaddie and it says, okay, it's 165 to the front of the green for me to carry over the water and to be on the green. I better know what club I have that goes 165 in the air,
Mhm.
right? If it's not my 7-iron, it better be my 6-iron, right? And I have to have that information, right? And that's also important for the people who are just starting out. They still need to know how far it is to get over an obstacle on the golf course, right? Now, if you're just starting out, you may not know what it's going to take you to get there, right? But at least you know how far it is, and you can put it in your mind is, okay, I may pull too much club here and hit, but guess what? You're going to be safe,
Mhm.
right? You're going to be safe, and that's the biggest thing about club distancing is you want to be safe. I had a good friend of mine tell me the last time I had playing, I was struggling a little bit because I hadn't played a lot, and I got up on the tee box, and my buddy goes, he goes, Clay, he goes, just swing it like you're going to hit it 100 yards,
Mhm.
just 100 yards. He goes, I know you got driver in your hand. He goes, you're going to hit it farther. He goes, just swing it like you're going to hit it 100 yards. And you know, after just swinging nice and easy for a couple strokes, everything just clicked right back. And I started playing better golf again for the rest of that round. But it just took one little bitty simple um, piece of
Phrase.
advice, right? To say just hit it 100 yards. That's all I need you to do. Just hit it 100 yards. And so, you know, and that's all it took. And you know, I'm very thankful to that guy, and he and I have won a few tournaments together because you know we play really good golf together. So, uh,
Yeah, it's a good friend to have. To give you some good.
well,
Well,
I do the same
it
thing to him though. You know, I'm
yeah,
like, hey, you're dipping here. You know, don't dip. Stand
right.
tall. You know, and these things like that. So,
Well, that's what a good partner is. But it brings a really good uh, point out though, because I think a lot of people, again, try to muscle the ball out there. They think it's all about brute strength, especially guys.
mm,
Guys are the
right.
girls. The ladies are a little bit different. They understand, but guys, for some reason, it's just sort of ingrained in us. We're gonna, we got the John Daly effect: grip it and rip it, and we're just gonna tear it
Hmm.
apart.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, the club does all the work, and the ball just gets in the way. If you swing it properly, if you swing a golf club properly, and you've aligned it, your posture is right, the ball position's good, and everything else is in good grip and so forth, the ball just simply gets in the way. And he's exactly right. If you swing it, at 60, 70, even 80%, you can belt it a mile. But
Right.
I see a lot of guys, they're coming out of their boots.
Hmm.
They're swinging so hard. So that's some great advice that he gave you, and no wonder why you
Well, you know,
guys.
and last year I got new golf clubs last year, and I went and got a proper fitting for those golf clubs.
Yeah.
You know, and I was pleasantly surprised after I got used to those clubs because it does take a little time to get used to some new clubs. You just can't go out and play the
No.
first time and shoot lights out. But you know, about round two, round three, I was like, okay,
Mhm.
you know, this fitting thing is the truth, right? Because I've gained like a club and a half distance by being fit with the proper shafts and the proper heads and you know the proper lie angles and all that kind of stuff. It makes a difference. And for those out there who are thinking about it, I will tell you 110% go do it, because not only are that you're going to enjoy golf more and have more fun at the game,
Yep.
and I'm seeing that now um,
Yep.
with what I've got.
Yeah, I see a lot of of our seasoned golfers out there that have struggled for years, and they've had lessons and they just either don't comprehend, don't understand, and they're out buying new equipment. They don't get fitted. They don't do anything, and they wonder why they never improve. And there's so much information available now for golfers of all ages, but particularly our more senior golfers, that they can get out there and enjoy their best golf ever. It's just a matter of getting between their ears, uh,
Hmm.
in a better frame of mind. And it comes with the territory. And I've been doing this a long time, and I know you've been in your industry for a long time, so you've seen it and heard it all pretty much, I'm sure, as well. All right, so
Yeah.
for those golfers out there that maybe, and again, I'm not saying this is a criticism to rangefinders. A lot of great rangefinders on the market out there, but there's a difference between what you guys are producing and a rangefinder. What are some of the advantages over a rangefinder?
Over a laser rangefinder is going to give you one number at a time.
Yeah.
SkyCaddie, I can give you, going into a green, I can give you five numbers. I can give you front, middle, back numbers and side to side numbers, right? Plus
Mhm.
distance to any sand trap or water that's in play coming into that, right? So I can give you multiple numbers at that time. All right, you can move the cursor to the location of the pin, and then you have front, middle, back, pin, side, side. Right. So if the pin's off to the right side of the green a little bit, it'll tell you that you've got 7 yards on the right side of the green and you got 14 yards on the left side of the green. Right.
Mhm.
So that tells me if I'm smart, I'm going to aim to the left where I've got a bigger area, right,
Sure.
to miss into, right? But I'm still going to get to that certain distance of where the pin is. Now, if I am I going uphill, going downhill? If I'm going uphill, I'm probably going to use the pin number, right, for more distance. If I'm going downhill a bit, I'll use the front pin number, the front of the green number, right,
Mhm.
to go to a distance, right? So a laser can only give you one number at a time, right? I can give you multiple numbers on SkyCaddie at a time. So that's one of the biggest things. Um, if you happen to be off, if you happen to play a blind shot into a green or a blind tee shot, laser's really not going to help you at all because you can't hit your target. Well, SkyCaddie, since it has an overview of the hole, I can see all that and I can still move my cursor out there and get yardages, right?
Yeah.
Even if I'm hitting a blind shot into a green, I can still see what those are because I can see it on the SkyCaddie. I can't hit it with a laser. So that's some of the biggest things out there that will help you using a GPS device versus a laser rangefinder.
You know, that's a great answer. And actually, you stole my next question. You gave me the answer before I got a chance to ask it. It was really going to address the blind shot issue, and you raise a really good point because I can remember playing a lot of golf over the years, and I can remember playing on some course where there were some holes where you had off the tee a blind spot, or even in some cases you had such an elevation. If you were even out in the fairway, there were elevations. You had an elevated green in that. It was very difficult to gauge your distances, and a lot of people don't factor that in. If you're hitting to a green that's up, you got to take a little bit more club because again, you're going up in the air, and vice versa. If you're on an elevated spot and you're hitting down to a lower level, then obviously you want to take a little bit less club because you're going to be a little bit more airborne. You're going to get more distance. So having that data point and having that information becomes very vital. And if you can't see your target with your own eyes, um, laser rangefinder really is only going to get you to a point that you can see, whereas
Right.
the GPS technology is giving you those data points because you're getting an overall view of the hole. So yeah, I mean that's to me that's a game changer when it comes to playing the game, is to be able to see those shots that you can't see with your own eyes. And a rangefinder,
Correct.
as good as it is, it can be the best on the market. If you can't access that information because you can't see it, the rangefinder really becomes uh, moot at that point for that particular shot, right?
Yeah. To a little bit, I had a question asked at me at the PGA show this year.
Mm-hmm.
Was somebody was like, "Okay, what happens when it's cart path only?
Mm-hmm.
What does a Sky Caddy do for me then when it's cart path only?" I said, "Well, it can do a lot for you if it's cart path only. I said, well, if my ball's out in the middle of the fairway and I'm over here, the distances aren't the same. I said, you're right, they're not. But I said, if you reach up in the middle of the green and grab that cursor, I said you can pull it down to the fairway, and then it'll give you a number from where that dot is to the fairway or to the middle of the green. So now you at least have where guess the ball is at in the fairway, right? To the middle of the green, that's a number, right?
Yeah.
How's a laser going to help you in that spot? You're going to have to walk out to your ball, shoot it, and walk back and get a club, right? With SkyCaddie, I can sit there and say, okay, let me draw it down here, and okay, I'm 138. Okay, I'm hitting a 9-iron, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grab my 9-iron, go out, execute shot, come back to the cart, and go.
Yeah.
So it's much more faster.
Yeah, that's a really good point that they brought up, because again, it goes to what you talked about earlier with the tags. If your device is in the cart and you're using a tag, and you're walking it, if it's a cart only, and your cart's 25 yards away or 20 yards away, and you're out in the middle of the fairway, well, you've got a 20-yard discrepancy from where the tag.
And you can edit that on the backside there too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, just a lot of it. Just interesting. What's the thing? You've been with them for a long time. When it comes to the technology, you've seen it all with SkyCaddie.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that impresses you the most about the technology itself? What, from when your early beginnings to what you're seeing now, what has been the most impressive thing that you've seen?
I guess how well the accuracy has stayed consistent and gotten better as technology advances. Not only, well, our software is advanced too, but how much better we can get with accuracy, right? With the way we map and the way our software works, and our GPS antennas and engines and all that cool stuff, how it works, that we've been able to be accurate and stay accurate, right? Because accuracy matters, and that's,
Sure.
you'll hear that from everybody. Accuracy matters. Accuracy matters. I have friends that have laser rangefinders, and I can tell them before they even shoot it how far the pin is, and we're usually within a yard of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it before they I'm like, oh, we're 137, and they're like, beep, 137. Okay, yeah, I told you that 10 seconds ago.
Right.
So so it's fun. We have fun, and to me that's the number one thing in golf, is if you're not having fun, just go home. No, I'm not making a living on the golf course playing golf.
No.
Right? I make a living in the golf industry, but not on the golf course. So I'm out there to have fun, and that's my main goal, is to have fun, and to take a few bucks off my buddies here and there, but that's
right.
different. So,
well, that's the thing that, as a teaching professional, that we always try to push to our students as well, is we want them to have fun. And there's nothing more frustrating, at the beginning of the season, somebody comes to you and they say, well, I'm really struggling with my game, and we'll ask them, well, what have you been working on? What have you been doing the last few months through the winter months? Well, I haven't really done anything. Well, that's why your game's suffering.
Yeah.
And so anytime you can find or do something that gives you a little bit of an advantage, everybody's always quick to say, well, I want those extra yards, or I want this, or I want to shave some strokes off. And the first thing they do is, well, I'm going to get some new clubs, or I'm going to get this new driver that's, $500, $600, $700. And I'll just say to them, you're crazy. I said, you don't know how far you hit at each of your clubs. You're buying a brand new driver. You can't hit your driver that you've got now all that well. So what makes you think, well, this one's more forgiving? And I said, they're all forgiving. I said,
right.
you need to learn how to play the game. So, where the technology, as we discussed earlier, really gives you a bit of an advantage, because it gives you information, data points that you didn't have before, that can help you make a more informed decision. It's like this. If you have a job, you don't just go out and do your job. You gather information. And
Correct.
You say, okay, what tools do I need? What's the landscape? And I mean, I don't necessarily mean outside, but even if you're a plumber, I need to understand what's the scenario? Is it just a leaky pipe? Is it just something that needs to be tightened, or do I need to replace it? So you gather information, you make an assessment. Then you decide what tools you're going to use. So in the case of with the SkyCaddie, you're out there and, okay, I know that I have 150 yards. Okay, so that's maybe my 8-iron or my 7-iron or whatever the case may be. So now I know what the scenario is. I'm looking at all of the numbers that I need to gather, all that information I've gathered now with my SkyCaddie. Now I can make an informed decision of what club I need to select. So what tool in the toolbox that I need to take. Now I can go out and execute the shot. And that's really what it's all about. And that's how you have fun. It's not about buying this or buying that. It's about really gathering the right information. And, before all this technology, I had people like Nicholas, and we talked about him earlier in an earlier segment. Nicholas was famous for gathering that information on his own. He would assess the information for every single shot. Then he would visualize the shot he needed to hit. And I mean, the history speaks for itself. He won 18 majors. Well, there's a reason why he won 18 majors. Is because he was able to, I could just imagine how much better he might have been if he had had a SkyCaddie in his pocket. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, think
no
about it.
doubt.
He did all that stuff on his head. Back then they didn't have all this technology. So they had to manually do that. So he obviously had a brain that allowed him to be able to gather the information that he needed to make an informed decision. And it didn't always work out. But for the most part, he was able to make an informed enough decision that he was able to execute the shot that he wanted or come very, very close. And he was obviously able to go on and win many, many tournaments and be, the history books have spoken volumes about him over the years. So,
Right.
Go ahead.
The thing that I did over this winter for my golf game was I put a super tag in my putter, and I worked on 6 to 8 foot putts all winter long. I mean, 20 to 50 putts a day, 6 to 8 feet.
Yep.
And that's all I did. And then I would go back and I would look at the ones I'd miss. I'd make a little note and say, okay, this was, shot 22, right? I would go look at shot 22 and look at the putting stroke that the super tag gave me, right? And I would compare it to the ones where I made, and I could see, okay, well, yep, there was the club face was a little open, so that's why I missed it, And so I was doing self correction on the spot, and I got it to where I'm making most of my 6 to 8 foot putts now, because I spent days and weeks just sitting there hitting 50 putts a day on a little putting mat here in my office, and using that super tag. So
Yeah.
that immense technology is crazy, and some of the stuff that they have coming out in the near future are going to make it even crazier.
Yeah.
Especially in the golf world.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's always changing. Every time you turn around, there's something else. Somebody will say to me, "Oh, have you seen this yet or seen that?" And it's like, no, I mean, it's just never ending. And it's exciting at the same time, but to see where things are going to go. All right. If people want to get more information on SkyGolf and obviously the various different products, is there a general website that people can go to that we can give them?
They can go to SkyCaddie.com. You can also look us up on all the major social medias out there. We do have a spring sale that's going on. So if you're looking for the best GPS finder in golf, the original GPS finder in golf, go out there and look at our sales that we've got going on. Look at picking yourself up some super tags and putting in your clubs if you really want to improve and get some data points and track your game around. You'll be surprised at the amount of knowledge that you can gain and how you can help yourself out.
For sure. Well, Clay, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate you joining me for another great segment on Golf Talk Live. Hang tight. I just got to wrap up here and then we'll go. Another incredible episode here on Golf Talk Live. A huge thank you to all of my guests, Jim Endicott and Brian Dobby, for joining me on the Coaches Corner panel earlier. Some great coaching insights and swing tips. Obviously, a special thanks to Bob Foreman for helping to get our bodies golf ready. And of course, my very special featured guest this evening, Clay Simpson, for showing us the future of golf course navigation. Join us next week for episode 4, where we'll have more expert guests and industry insiders to help you play your best golf yet. Until then, keep it in the short grass. I'm Ted Odorico, and this has been Golf Talk Live. I'll see you next Thursday.